All right. So it's great to see you on this wonderful Tanya Tuesday. We're going to dedicate today's Tanya to Henry Cohen's sister, Lillian Bat Zahara. May Hashem have an aliyah, and may she be able to be buried soon. And may Hashem bless her family to find some comfort. Um, Today's class is probably the most Kabbalistic we've done in a while. Um, so we're going to take what we learned last week and we're going to, let's say, dig in our heels and go further into it because one thing that people don't like, in politics, right? Everyone likes a simplistic answer, but there is no such thing as a simplistic answer. The same thing is, when people ask me a Jewish law question, you know, Rabbi, what's the law with this? What's usually the answer? Either it depends or, it depends on the circumstance. It depends who you ask, right? That's because the reality is truth is complex and life is complex. And the same thing is going to be over here is that, um, you know, though we, sometimes, shall we say, make things simplified, the reality is that the truth of anything, you have to go deeper. You have to parse it apart, pull it apart, to get to the truth of anything. And so that's going to be today true as well. So last time we gathered, which was 2 weeks ago, last week was Thanksgiving week. So last time we gathered 2 weeks ago, we discussed what is kavanah, what is intention, and we said intention does not mean the technical thoughts you need to have when you pray, meaning what do the words of prayer mean? Okay, what is the mitzvah that I'm doing? That is almost like the action of the mitzvah itself. The real uh intention, as we're calling it, is what is driving you to do that mitzvah, right? So similar to like we said, if you have a spouse that's giving you a present, obviously, first of all, they need to know that what they're giving is valuable, but that's a technical aspect. The practical aspect is what are the feelings behind what they're giving you, and the same thing is when if a mitzvah connects us to God, that's what mitzvah means, connection, and prayer connects us to God in another way. Torah connects us to God another way. All these things connect us to God. What is the feeling that we have that's driving us to do that action? That is the true kavanah, as the Tanya sees it. And we explained that in the what drives us to do a mitzvah, which is love of God and awe of God. There are two layers of love of God and awe of God. We call them the love that is like animalistic. Animalistic means it's more natural to us. Okay, just like animals live based on nature. There's a more natural love that God gives inside of us, a natural love and awe of God. So it still takes work to tap into. But that was the beginning of Tanya, chapter 18 of chapter 25, I think, or 24. And then we have a more deep love, which is born out of deep meditation, which is obviously greater because you work hard on it. And that is the love that's compared to a human being. Okay. So, um, because just as a human being, we have the ability to choose, we have the ability to create. Um, so the love that we create through our deep meditation is the kavanah that is compared to a human being. That was the basic that we said last week. This week, we're going to take that and go even deeper in this idea because um, every mitzvah, as we spoke about, connects us with the heavens. Now, in the heavens themselves, there are many, many layers. Okay, there are many, many layers in heaven, and there are many layers to ourselves as well. And so, what we're going to parse apart this week is depending on exactly what is driving me to do the mitzvah or how I'm feeling or how I'm thinking, depending on my divine mode of service will depend on what connections I'm creating. So, in order to understand that, we'll need to know a little bit about ourselves and we will need to know a little bit about the heavens. Okay, so that's really what we're going to go into. Um, but before we do that, we're going to take a detour. Before we get to that, we're going to take a detour, and the detour is just on this theme that we spoke about a moment ago. How we said that there's animalistic love and there's godly love. Sorry, there's animalistic love, which is a natural love, and there's love which is based on our human feelings, which are ones that we create. Based on that, we're going to say the same thing actually applies the difference between human beings and angels. So angels, as we're going to learn about in a moment, are called animals in I don't know what's making beeps here. But angels are called animals in uh in our holy scripture. They're called Chayot HaKodesh, the holy animals. That's what they're called. It's in our prayer book every single morning. I should get a prayer book here. We say Va'ofanim L'Chayot HaKodesh. Let me just grab the door. If I can find one quickly. So if you have a blue sitter, if you have a blue sitter, you can find this statement that they're called the holy animals on page 40. So on page 40, um, towards the bottom, it says, "And the Ofanim and the holy Chayot, with a mighty sound, rides towards the Seraphim, face them and offer praise and say." So holy Chayot literally means the holy animals. So the question is, why are they called holy animals? Yep, it's very yeah. There's other statements about them, about angels that depict them as animals. It says that God's chariot, Ezekiel describes God's chariot, and God's chariot is carried by faces of angels. Okay, it says Pnei Shor Me'amin. We can even pull it up. Ezekiel's chariot, chariot. Let's pull up the chariot description. Um, let's find the chariot. So actually, the chariot of God is described as being carried by a bunch of animals. Now, who are those animals? Those animals are actually angels that look like animals. In fact, one of those angels has the face of a cow or a calf, and it says that's actually one of the reasons the Jews made the golden calf. They got the idea from seeing God's chariot. When God came down and gave Mount Sinai, and they saw God's chariot, it gave them this idea of a cow or a calf. Um, let's here it is. Here, okay, here's a description of the chariot, Ezekiel 1, chapter 1. This was their appearance. They were human figures, but each one had four faces and each one had four wings. Their faces and their wings were alike on the four of them. As for the likeness of their faces, each one had a human face in the front. Each of the four had a lion's face to the right. Each of the four had an ox's face to the left. Each of the four had an eagle's face in the back. So they had some human face, but they also had an animal face, which is really interesting. And there's other areas where angels are called animals. So why would angels, based on what we've studied and based on what my preface, why would angels be called animals? Any thoughts? When we think about angels, angels are super holy. I mean, they're super super holy. So why would we be calling angels animals, which is a step lower than human beings? And any thoughts? I think I
Yeah,
gave.
yeah.
Huh?
They're wired like animals in that they just do God's will.
Very good. They're wired. Correct. Just like we explained earlier, that the love that we just tap into, the natural love that we tap into, is called a love of an animalistic love, right? Even though it's very holy, it's beautiful, it's a love of God, but we call it animalistic because it's natural. Similarly, the angels are wired. Whatever they do is how they're wired. So therefore, they're called the holy animals because they are very much wired to do specific things, and whatever they're wired to, as holy as it may be. There was no free will in there. There was no choice. It's just how they're wired. In fact, we see this idea by the three angels that came to Abraham. Everybody knows the story that Abraham was sitting at his tent and three angels showed up to his door. Why was there a need for three angels? And the answer is because they actually all came for different missions. One came for healing, another one came for destruction, another one came to give news, whatever it is. So why why three angels? And actually later in the story, one of them disappears because he wasn't needed anymore. Because those angels who were Michael and Gabriel and Raphael, those three beautiful angels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, they have specific they're hardwired to only do certain things. So the angel of healing cannot be the angel of destruction. Okay, the angel of healing maybe could be the angel of saving, but he cannot be the angel of destruction. The angel of destruction cannot be the angel of healing. They're hardwired a very certain way. One angel couldn't do multiple things. They're stuck into what they're doing. That's what it means they're an animal. They're hardwired. So as incredible and beautiful as angels are, God enjoys our presence much more. In fact, the the Alter Rebbe later in the Tanya quotes from the Baal Shem Tov, and he says like this. He says, when a minion of Jews gathers together, if even one angel was there, it would burn up. 10 Jews, the power of 10 Jews is much greater than the power of animals. Another thing we say that what a Hasidic Farbrengen can do, even the angel Gabriel cannot, Michael cannot do. Okay, Michael, who's the angel of kindness. So what a Hasidic Farbrengen can do, even the angel Michael cannot do. Why? Because again, this idea that angels are limited. They have what they can do and they have what they can't do. So in other words, the angel Michael cannot. So let's say, okay, the angel Michael is the angel of kindness, but he can only be kind when God tells him to be kind. However, we can affect greater blessings that maybe we weren't deserving of through the power of us, the Jewish people. We have the ability to go further. There's another line that is said is God tells the prophet Zechariah, God tells him uh, when he was about to walk between the angels, God tells him, I will place you walking between those who are standing. So what does that mean? It means, explains Hasidic philosophy, is that human beings are called walking. Angels are called standing. Why? Because angels can never really go up or down. They're stuck where they are. A human being can fall down with sin, can rise up with teshuvah, repentance. So human beings are called walking. We always are moving. We're either going up or down. We're walking one direction or another. Angels are called stuck. They're stuck in their place. They cannot change. And so that is the beauty of human beings is that we have the ability to go beyond just being the animalistic love of God. What is animalistic love of God? It's beautiful, but it's natural. That's an angel. We have the ability to create a love that is created. And this again adds explanation to what we said in the previous chapter is that we don't want to suffice with just animalistic love because then we just be like angels. God created human beings. He wants us to go that extra step, that extra level. So let us take a look at this as he talks about it in the Tanya. Okay, right here. Page 450, chapter 39. Okay. Chapter 39 continues our discussion in chapter 38 about the spiritual power of attentiveness, kavanah, when performing a mitzvah. Can you hear now?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
I think I
That's
touched.
that's why I got out and came back in.
Yeah, I was going to do the same thing. I thought it was
I
me.
thought you
I
would.
thought it was just me.
All
Yeah,
right, no,
but
I'm switching microphones. Can you still hear me now?
Yes.
we could hear you now, but you better go back and start at the beginning because we didn't hear any of it
Okay,
from
I think when the whole time you didn't hear me?
Nope.
no
What?
from
Oh, just,
reading from
just,
reading this.
yeah,
I'm
just
reading
from the,
this.
yeah.
Okay, okay. So what this summary is telling us, this is the important part, is that in the previous chapters we learned what, in other words, there's many reasons why kavanah, why intention in doing a mitzvah is important. One reason is, as we explained in previous chapters, that through kavanah, through the intention of the mitzvah, which as we said is the love and the awe of God, it allows the mitzvah to be flooded with the divine light. We get to feel God, okay, in the mitzvah. Okay. This chapter is going to give another reason why kavanah is important. Kavanah also changes where your mitzvah can reach. Okay, how far your mitzvah is capable of reaching in the heavens. So it's another layer of why kavanah intention is important. So again, remember how we started the chapter, or not this chapter, last one, that the mitzvah itself is like the body, and the kavanah, the intention is the soul. So sure, you can do the mitzvah without kavanah, but now we're already learning a second problem. If you just have the body without soul, number one, you're not going to feel God. You're not going to be flooded with divine light. Number two is your mitzvah, as we're going to learn, is not going to reach a good address. So that's an important point why it's good to stick with the chapter. It's not just rehashing the same things, it's giving another layer why kavanah is important. Our opening discussion continues exactly where we left off at the end of chapter 38, with the Tanya's distinction between the two general categories of kavanah. Preferably, we learned your kavanah should arise from awareness of God that you've personally acquired through real contemplative work. But a lower level of kavanah can still be attained merely by stirring up innate feelings for God that you have already in your soul. The higher level of the Tanya is comparable to a human, in that it is acquired through application of higher mental faculties. The lower level is like an animal, because it is based on instinctual awareness that is already present in the psyche. And this description of the lower instinctual kavanah as an animal in character is also the reason why angels are called chayot, wild beasts, and behemoths, animals. As the verse states of Ezekiel's vision of the heavenly chariot, that the angels appeared with a lion's face to the right, an ox's face from the left. The angels are compared to animals because they do not possess the free choice to acquire a personal intellect-based appreciation of God, and their worship through either reverence or love of God is merely intellectual for them. And I want to point out, by the way, he says here, he says either. In other words, they either have love or awe. They can't have both. And that's like an even deeper layer of their animalistic nature. In other words, they're really stuck in how they're designed. They either can have love or they either can have awe. An angel will not have both, generally, because they're stuck in how they're designed. As stated in the Zohar Nehemna Parshas Pinchas, I always like that name. At first glance, the angels, who are purely spiritual, seem to bear no resemblance to animals, whose consciousness is focused exclusively on the physical world. But Scripture chooses to describe the angels as wild beasts and animals to indicate that the angel's emotional enrapture with God, however impressive it may be, is ultimately instinctual for them and not earned. By the way, this is also a powerful lesson to us. You find people who are very naturally spiritual, and we can get jealous of them because for us it's so hard to feel spiritual. Really, you meet some people that just have a very natural spirituality, but it's very possible that your natural spirituality, sorry, it's very possible that your spirituality that you work on, even if it seems less than the other person, is actually greater in God's eyes because it's something you worked on. If the other person reaches spirituality easily and is just tapping into their innate nature, which can feel God easier, which we discussed at length in the chapter 2, how that's the case, how is it possible some people have more natural spirituality? We'll touch upon it later in this class as well, or maybe next week. But again, we can look at other people and feel it's natural, feel, the human being can feel jealous, or if not jealous, feel how come, it's not fair. But again, what matters is really the energy you expend. That's what we're discussing here. Angels are incredible. Angels have an amazing love of God, but they're just it's innate, it's natural to them. So the same things with us is if you feel that, we should work on uh, if you work on whatever feelings of spirituality you have, that is more precious in God's eyes than someone who has a natural feeling and seems greater. Okay, so that's a practical lesson that we're getting from here. So he says, that's why the tzaddikim and the righteous are considered to be higher than angels, even though their awareness of God is much lower than the angels, because the tzaddikim achieve it is earned and non-instinctual. As the Tanya now explained, the inner reason why tzaddikim are able to receive more than angels is because uh, their their souls come from a higher place. So in order to explain what does that mean their souls come from a higher place? Okay, so he's going to touch upon the four worlds. And the four worlds are going to be an important discussion. So I do want to go into the four worlds. So does anybody remember the four worlds? It's not a don't worry if you get them wrong. You can give it a try.
The four worlds. I spaced out for a second, Rabbi. Can you repeat?
Yeah, what are the four worlds?
The four the four Kabbalistic worlds?
Yes.
What Atzilus,
Yes.
Bria?
Yeah.
I blank on the others.
Okay,
As,
no, it's good. It's good. You got two so far.
uh, I blank on the other ones.
Atzilut, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. So, 1 second. Let me gotta pause this here. Yeah, so there are four worlds: Atzilut, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. So we have in the morning prayers. And here's another example. All right, so we have in the morning prayers. All right. My God, the soul which you have given to within me is pure. So pure refers to Atzilut. That's the highest world. You have created it. That's Bria, creation. You have formed it. That's Yitzirah, as it says in Hebrew. Ati Yatzarta. You have breathed it into me. That is the lowest world, which is this world, Asiya. So there are four worlds. Atzilut, the divine world of emanation. Bria, the divine world of creation. Yitzirah, the divine world of formation. And Asiya, the world of actuality. So as you go down, it's basically how God gets from God to us. That's why there's four worlds, okay? God has, so to speak, a chain-like system in which God goes from the highest to the lowest in gradations. So here's a little cute video from Chabad.org from Rabbi Tzvi Freeman, gives a little idea of the four worlds and the difference between them. So we'll watch this just to help us understand these four worlds a little bit more. And like I said, today is going to be a couple of videos because it's a little more complex. So.
Look, Bible, Zadie made
So it's cute. It's based on, just like God makes the world. So there's like this little video game that the kids are going to make a world. So you'll see.
an instructional video for the Isifier.
Mazel tov! You've made a good choice by purchasing a Kabbalah Lab Isifier, providing hours of creative fun for the entire family. With this video, you'll learn how to Isify conscious Isicritters and create entire worlds. Start by choosing any of the topics below.
Otherness.
Otherness is the prime ingredient to any Isification. You see, all Isicritters are created using Kabbalah Lab's unique mind-to-creation interface. So when you Isify an Isicritter, it's really just an extension of your own mind. But you don't want just another extension of your own mind. You want a real Isicritter with its own mind, so it really feels it is. You want to give your Isicritter a sense of otherness. Your Kabbalah Lab Isifier is capable of generating infinite gradations of otherness over a spectrum of 4 distinct flavors. Flavor number 1. Near zero otherness. Your Isicritter is just an obvious extension of yourself. It is an is, but it doesn't know that it is an is. Flavor number 2. Proximal otherness. Your Isicritter feels it is something other than you, but it also feels how you are Isifying it at every moment. So its isness is swallowed up within your greater isness. Flavor number 3. Relative otherness. Here, your Isicritter feels totally other, yet it can still acknowledge other others, including even your otherness. Flavor number 4. Near absolute otherness. This is the ultimate Isicritter. It feels nothing else but its own isness. Well, almost. Real absolute otherness would be unsustainable. To exist, you see, a thing has to be able to receive from something other than itself.
I wonder what level of other.
So it's describing the four worlds in a very, very important way, and that is the layers of otherness. That's really what's happening. When God creates us, we are always a part of him. That's the reality, right? We are always a part of him, whether we realize it or not. So what are the four worlds doing? The four worlds are giving us beings, or whichever being exists in whichever world it is, a sense of otherness, because that's the prime ingredient of creation, to give things a sense of otherness. Now, so the four worlds have different layers of otherness. Generally, as he mentions in the video, each of the four worlds have many, many levels within, sub-levels within itself. But generally, the otherness of the first world, Atzilut, the world of emanation, that means emanation, right? They're not going to feel much otherness, right? Because they feel like they're emanation. Then you have the next layer, where the world of formation, the world of creation, the world of actuality. So again, each world is a world of um, more of a sense of otherness. So what am I going with this? We explained in chapter 2 that just as a baby has a gestational period in which the baby forms before it comes into this world, the same thing's with our souls. Our souls are in heaven, and they go through these four worlds till they come down to this world. And the more you get processed in these four worlds, the less spiritually you're gonna feel. Why? Because again, the worlds give you a sense of otherness, right? The worlds give you a sense of feeling of separation from God. And so we explained in that chapter, in chapter 2, that some souls actually really kind of jump. So some souls will come to this world directly from the world of emanation. Those souls are going to be the righteous people who feel very connected to God. They're very few people. Some souls will come from the world of creation, which is a lower level of otherness, but not too much of otherness. So depending on where your soul jumped out of the spiritual worlds to come to you, in other words, how long, so to speak, it was in that gestational period, that will decide how spiritual you feel. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because what he's going to say here is that the tzaddikim, most righteous people in this world, their souls jumped out from the world of creation. The world of creation is only layer number 2 of otherness, okay? Whereas angels live in world number 3. And so that's why he's saying, he made the argument in the Tanya that righteous people are greater than angels. And just from a very practical point of view, angels live in a lower spiritual world. They live in a world where there's more feeling of otherness, the world of Yetzirah, the world of formation. So again, we have four worlds: Atzilut, emanation; Bria, creation; Yetzirah, formation; Asiyah, Asiyah means actuality. And these four worlds are four gradations of otherness, of feelings of self. And the higher you are up on that channel, the closer you can feel to God. And we are going to say here that righteous people come from the world of creation, which is higher than the world of formation, because you have to create before you form. Okay, there has to be something that you're forming. That's why creation comes first. You would think creation is like the worst, but no, actually, creation is you need to create something in order to form it. So since righteous people are rooted in a higher world, therefore they are greater than the angels, and this also fits with what we've been saying. Is also angels are stuck in their love of God. Do something like this. As the Tanya will now explain, the inner reason why tzaddikim are able to achieve more than angels is because their souls come from a higher place, from the heavenly soul department of most tzaddikim in the higher intellectual worlds of Bria, whereas the department of most angels, and notice how he says most angels, is the lower emotional world of Yetzirah. Now he says most angels. Most angels are rooted in the world of Yetzirah, of formation, and he does want you to know that there are some other angels. There are some angels that actually do have a higher level. You know, if we look in if you look in the Midrash, there's a story of angels who had free will and made mistakes. We're talking about general angels, about most angels. There are exceptions in angels as well. That's what the note points out. There are angels that are not so animalistic, but that is not the general story of most angels. I don't know why this is not letting me go here. Okay. So that's just a side point, but a very fascinating point that, is for those who ever want to get into it. It's an interesting topic about the angels that had free will. All right. So we're now ready to go to the next section, which again requires explanation. We've already tasted a little bit of it. We've described how there are four worlds. Okay? We've described how there are four worlds. And based also on let me think of how I want to describe this. They had another great example here. Uh, no, okay, I'll skip that. I have to figure how far I want to go in. Um, so just by the way, most of our souls that live in this world today are souls from the lowest world. That's why spirituality is hard in this world. All right, the next thing we need to talk about is the 10 sefirot. Okay. Uh, Anybody knows what the 10 sefirot are? No. Okay, maybe someone remembers. We discussed the 10 Sefirot. So we've discussed the four worlds. Within the four worlds,
Hold on, Rabbi. I just didn't want to Bigfoot the meeting.
huh?
I just didn't want to Bigfoot the meeting. I could.
No, okay, yeah. So go for the 10 Sefirot.
I don't know them all. I don't know them all, but
Okay, just say what you remember.
all
It's
right.
a good exercise.
Is this okay? I feel like I'm talking too much.
No. I'm asking the question. So
All right. So it's Chochmah, Bina, and Dot.
yeah,
Those are
yeah,
those are one of the fathers. They're the ones.
yeah. The fathers, yeah. Let's discuss.
They're the ones associated with the mind.
Yes.
And then there's Tiferet in the middle, which is beauty. And that's okay. And then there's now I start to. I'm not going to get them all actually.
Okay.
There's
Yeah,
Yesod. There's Yesod.
Sod, yes, Sod, foundation. Good. So good. All right. I wanted to make sure that nobody remembered all of them. So that therefore, if we do a little review, it won't be hurtful to
Can
anyone.
you hit on Malchut too, please?
Can I what?
Really hit on the other ones, like Malchut especially.
Yeah. So I'm first going to show a video again to go through a little explanation. It's from Torah Cafe. It's a 3-minute video. What's important to know before we show the video is, as the video will itself say, is the 10 Sefirot are both in heaven and in our bodies. In other words, they exist within us, but they also exist in heaven. And actually, they primarily exist in heaven. The Kabbalists tell us that when God says, let us make man in our image, what it's actually referring to is these 10 Sefirot. In other words, just as in heaven, God operates through the 10 Sefirot, we also have 10 Sefirot within us. Okay? And so this video is going to tell you that, and it's also going to go through all 10 Sefirot. So just know these 10 Sefirot exist both within heaven and within us. Okay? So let me share over here. And let's share the screen. Wait, let me make sure I'm also sharing the share this. Okay. It's not long. Oh, there's an ad. Well, it's good. I muted it. Okay.
No sooner said than done. Finite. God decided to do the impossible, to create a finite, diverse universe within his infinite, indivisible self. God first created the mystical Sefirot, 10 divine channels through which his infinite light could be condensed, contracted, and then released as individualized attributes that could eventually give rise to a diversity of finite creations. Let us make man in our own image, said God. No sooner said than done. Man was created in his Creator's image, with his own internal set of 10 attributes through which he operates. These 10 spiritual attributes are reflected in the physical human anatomy. Let's go through them one by one. Sephira 1, Chochmah. Chochmah is the initial seed of an idea, the flash of undeveloped inspiration. It enables us to be creative, spiritual, transcendent. Sephira 2, Bina. Bina is the development of ideas. It enables us to be logical, analytical, organized. Sephira 3, Dot. Dot allows us to focus on an idea so that it becomes relevant and personally meaningful. It enables us to be attentive, principled, involved. Sephira 4, Chesed. Chesed is the power to love, share, and look kindly upon others. It enables us to be generous, optimistic, sociable. Sephira 5, Gevura. Gevura is the power of discipline and restraint. It enables us to be calculated, cautious, serious. Sephira 6, Tiferet. Tiferet is the power to empathize and to harmonize kindness with strictness based on the needs of others. It enables us to be balanced, empathetic, harmonious. Sephira 7, Netzach. Netzach is the power of determination to overcome challenge. It enables us to be persistent, forceful, daring. Sephira 8, Hod. Hod is the power of humility, gratitude, and submitting to a higher cause. It enables us to be thankful, devoted, accommodating. Sephira 9, Yesod. Yesod is the power to focus on others and to build genuine relationships. It enables us to be selfless, altruistic, loyal. And last, but not at all least, Sephira 10, Malchut. Malchut has multiple functions. It is the power of speech and action, effective communication and leadership, and to be receptive to others. It enables us to be leading, communicating, achieving. So there you have it, the 10 components of the human self, the internal mechanism upon which all intellect, emotion, and actions run. God used 10 Sephirot to create his universe, and we use our 10 Sephirot to shape our miniature universes.
So there you have it, the 10 Sefirot. The 10 Sefirot. Obviously, I don't expect you to remember all that, but you get the idea. Is that the 10 Sefirot are ways with which God runs this world. So if God wants to be kind in the world, okay, he's going to use the chesed, kindness. If God wants to give wisdom to the world, give the Torah, he'll use chokhmah, wisdom or understanding. Now, the reason why I'm getting into this is because in each of the four worlds, these 10 Sefirot operate. In other words, if we say that these 10 Sefirot are how God runs the worlds, then each world has to have all of them. However, in each of the worlds, some of those 10 Sefirot are dominant and defines that world. Okay? And why is that important? Because based on your divine service of God, where it's rooted in, will define how far your mitzvah reaches. I'll say that again. If in each world a different layer of these 10 Sefirot is dominant there, that means that if you connect to God primarily through one of your 10 Sefirot, and it'll connect with a world that is dominated by that Sefirah. So what is the highest of the 10 is obviously intellect, which means, as you may be following now, if your love of God is based on your intellect, then your mitzvahs can connect to the highest world. But if your love of God is rooted in your emotions, in other words, it was more natural, didn't come from your mind, then it will not reach as high because it'll reach to a world where the emotional attributes are more primary. So I had a chart here in the Hebrew and I asked ChatGPT to make it in English for me. Didn't translate exactly correctly, but let's try here. We're gonna go to the second column. Okay. So all right, so we have all right, so here we have the world of emanation. Let me let's copy this table and let's put it in a Word document. That'll be easier. Word. Maybe this will work better. Okay. But okay, let's put it here. I hope I'm sharing that screen, the same screen still. Okay, yeah. So here you have let's just say godliness, by the way. I don't know how they got that. Oops. Godliness. Okay. So all right. So the world of emanation, okay? The primary of the 10 Sefirot is the first one, which is wisdom. Wisdom is the flash of knowledge. Wisdom is the knowledge that we get that we almost don't even know where it comes from. When you get a flash of an idea, then you got to develop it. So it's the most connected to our highest self. And the same thing is, so that world is run by, and that requires a lot of self-nullification, okay? Because in order to receive an idea, you got to almost give up. You got to become like a rotted seed in the ground. And oh, I forgot to mention, we also have 4 layers of our soul. Okay. Sorry, there are 5 layers of our soul, but the 5th layer of our soul is the deepest layer. It does not correspond to a world. So, but we have 5 layers of our soul, and different layers of our soul correspond to different worlds and different sefirot. So we have the deepest, over here, the 4th level of our soul, Chaya, corresponds to wisdom. And all right, so world number 1, emanation, corresponds to wisdom. This is the important part. The world of creation corresponds to understanding. So understanding is when you take an idea and you break it apart. You had the flash of the idea, now you got to work on it. So it's more you, right? The flash of idea was like it comes from, you don't know where it comes from, right? We know it comes from God. Okay? Understanding is something you have to work on. You have to take that flash of idea and develop it. Okay? Then the world of formation has a 6 emotional attributes. This corresponds to natural emotion. Whereas, as you can imagine, the previous world where you work on it corresponds to intellectual emotion. Okay, the highest world corresponds to complete self-nullification, when you feel like nothing in front of God. And then there's the world of doing. That's just practically doing the right thing. Okay. So to recap, there are 4 worlds that correspond to primarily different layers of the 10 Sefirot. The highest world of emanation is the world which corresponds to wisdom. Wisdom comes to us when we're in a state of self-nullification. So that is a world we connect to when we feel totally nullified towards God. Then there's the next world, which is understanding. That's where we work on understanding things, the world of Binah, the world of understanding. That corresponds to when we connect to God through our intellectual emotion. Then there's the world of the Yetzirah, formation, which mainly corresponds to the world. What's dominant there are the 6 layers of emotion, the 6 sefirot of emotion, and that corresponds to when we connect to God through natural emotion. Then the final layer is the world of kingship, malchut, and that we get from action, from doing. So the practical mitzvah. Okay. So as you can be well aware now you can understand, right? And let me just show you again. So if your divine service is of self-nullification, which happens occasionally, right? You'll be tapping into the highest world. If you're serving God with intellectual emotion, you'll be tapping into the second highest world of Binah, creation. If you're using your natural emotion, you'll be connecting to Yetzirah, the world of formation, which is where the angels are, as we said a moment ago. And if you're just literally doing deed, with a very minimal layer of feelings, then it'll reach the world of doing. Now, important to note, by the way, the world of action, the world of doing, Asiyah, has 2 layers. There's the spiritual one, and there's the physical one, which we're in. So there is a spiritual world Asiyah as well. Okay, so with all that being said, and hopefully now you have a lot of ideas running through your mind. So now we can understand what he's about to say. I gave you all this introduction so you can understand what he's going to say. So we said that tzaddikim exist in a world of the second layer, the world of creation. Now we can understand why. What is the primary dominant sphere on that world? That is the layer of understanding, which means because they connect to God through emotion that they worked on, through their understanding, therefore they connect to that world. Angels, however, who live on natural emotion, that corresponds to the world of Yetzirah, the world of formation, which is world number 3. Okay? So that's what he says. The distinction between these 2 worlds being that the lower world of Yetzirah, sorry, let's try this one more time. And I did not do that successfully. Hello? No, this click wheel is, okay. I don't know. I'm trying here. You see? I'm almost giving up here. Okay. Whereas angels are located as illuminated only by the emotional powers, namely the love and feel of trepidation before him to revere him, but the intellectual powers are not, do not predominate. Tanya now cites, I'm sorry, I'm still trying. Tanya now cites various, we're just going to connect. I had another mouse here. Tanya now cites various sources that indicate this very idea. Which idea? The idea that their love of God, sorry, who rests where? So, I got it now. Okay. The Tanya now cites various Kabbalistic sources that indicate this point, as stated in Tikkun Zohar and Eitz Chaim, that the 6 emotional sefirot of Atzilut have a nest in Yetzirah. Yetzirah is world number 3. Remember, we have Atzilut, emanation, Bria, creation, Yetzirah, formation. Where the 6 emotional sefirot, which correspond to the natural love we have to God, that is in the world of Yetzirah. And that's why the worship of the angels is constant day and night without rest. The fact that the angels' worship is constant shows that it is devoid of effort, because anything that takes effort is liable to fluctuate. And that is, by the way, lesson number 2 I want to tell you. Effort is so important. Think about that. Imagine what he's saying. He's saying, we look at angels, wow, look at how much they love God. They're always loving God. says, yeah, if something is constant, that means they're not working on it. Right? What's the saying we say in English, right? The only thing that's constant is change, right? That's the only thing that's constant in our world. That if you live in a world where there's no free will, if you live in a world where then you're constantly feeling close to God. So actually, when you don't feel close to God, I don't want to say take it as a compliment, but take it as a good thing. That means that you are a human being, that God created you, that you should fluctuate. The prophet tells us, Sheva yipol tzaddik v'kam. A tzaddik will fall down 7 times and arise. That's natural. That's how we arise in life, is we need to rise and fall down, rise and fall down. Another point demonstrating the angels' lack of autonomy and free choice is the fact that angels is limited to one particular type of emotion. And their task, I mentioned this earlier, their task is either to stand in reverence or trepidation, as we find that each group of angels is locked into a specific mode of reverence. The entire camp of Angel Gabriel to the left, whereas the worship of the camp of Angel Michael to the right is locked in the mode of love. So the left is awe, the right is love, as you saw the depiction of the person as well. So they're locked into whichever emotion that they're born with. They're not born, created with. So they're stuck with it. They're stuck with it, and they can never move. They're stuck in those camps. But the world of Bria, the world of creation, is illuminated by the Blessed Infinite One's intellectual powers. Okay. Let's try and turn. Okay. The intellectual of Chokhmah, wisdom, Binah, understanding, Das, knowledge. The intellectual powers being the source of the emotions, their mother, and their root. Tzaddikim don't just worship with the intellect, they worship God with emotions, love, and reverence too. The distinction is that the angels' emotions are instinctual and fixed because they are not the product of intellectual work, whereas the emotions of tzaddikim are fluid since they are the product of the mind. By the way, this does not mean that we do not have emotions that can come born out of our mind. So why is he saying only righteous people? Because most of us do not have that as often as righteous people. Righteous people, if you want to say constant, but much more constant than us, they are creating feelings of God that are born out of their intellect. Tanya now cites proof that the Tikkun Zohar, that the world, that Bria, creation, is the world of intellect. As stated in the Tikkun Zohar, the supernal mother refers to the level of understanding. So father is Chokhmah, wisdom, mother is understanding. Just to explain that Kabbalistic at the end, a very simple level. Just like when it comes to birth, right? So the father gives, the seminal drop, but the mother develops it. And the same thing is in general in life, right? The mothers are more nurturing, they develop things, right? So that's really what happens in our mind as well. Chokhmah, wisdom, is the seminal idea. But it takes Bina to develop it. It takes Bina to truly understand that idea and break it apart and bring it into ways that we understand and make sense. So that's why it's called the mother. Shehu Olam Abriya, the throne, referring to the world of Bria. So that is why Bina, understanding, is called the mother. It's the ability of our intellect to develop things. In Ezekiel's vision cited above, the angels appearing as animals were seen below the likeness of the throne. From here we learn that the world above the angels is called the throne. Bria is compared to a throne on which you sit to indicate how the spiritual illumination of the world has been downgraded from the highest world of Atzilut above it. So you're sitting down. Okay. That was a tangential point here. So let's get back to our main point. That's why the intellectual world of Bria is a sole repository of tzaddikim. Since tzaddikim, the righteous people, worship God with a reverence and love that result from cognition and recognition of the Blessed Infinite's one greatness. Tanya, right? So again, that is, right? We said love that comes from our work, from our intellectual work, is the love of the human being, not the animalistic love, and that is the love that tzaddikim always have. Tanya now offers further proof that intellect-based worship is associated with the world of Bria. The proof has 3 elements. A, as we shall see later on, another. By the way, I always say, I've said this before. Why is the Tanya bringing proofs? You have to remember the Tanya is written for everyone, including scholars. And so sometimes he wants to prove his point. So whether you understand his proofs or not, it's not that important. But he was trying to convey to people who were scholarly and did study the Kabbalah. Not me, I don't study Kabbalah, okay? I study Hasidic philosophy. But people who study Kabbalah, he wanted to prove to them his thesis that there is a world in which you can only connect to through intellectual, through emotion, through intellectual born emotion. Okay? The proof has three elements. One, as we shall see later on, another term for the word Bria is the upper Garden of Eden. Two, the Zohar states that in order to enter the upper Garden of Eden, the soul must have carried out the worship at a level called desire of the heart. Above in chapter 17, we learn that the desire of the heart is intellect-based. So it's hard to follow. Combining these three elements together, we have proof that the intellect-based worship is connected with the world of Bria. So that's what he's going to say. As we mentioned above, chapter 17, the love experienced by the tzaddikim, by the righteous people, was generated by the intellectual. I'm going to have to zoom out in order to turn the next page. By the intellectual called desire of the heart. And from the desire of the heart, a garment is formed for the soul, enabling it to enter the world of Bria, which, as will be explained later in the chapter, is the upper Garden of Eden, as the Zohar states in his commentary of the Torah portion of Vayachas. So again, his proof is the world of Bria is called the upper Garden of Eden. The upper Garden of Eden you can only reach through desire of the heart. And desire of the heart, as we explained, is a love that is born from the intellect. All right. In the next section, he's going to go a little bit further into the different layers of the soul. But basically he's going to say is that obviously sorry, not obviously. I mentioned in passing that there are four layers of our soul, and the different layers of our soul correspond to the different worlds, which means that the different layers of our soul also correspond to these different layers of love of God. So he's going to explain, obviously, only certain layers of the righteous person's soul is connecting with this layer of intellectual emotion. So that's what he says. However, this association with the world of Bria is not applicable to all levels of the soul, but only to its intellectual component, not to nefesh, ruach, but neshama exclusively. So nefesh is the lowest. That's the level of your soul that deals with the actions. Ruach is the feeling of your soul that deals with emotion. Neshama is the level of your soul that deals with uh, intellect and intellectual born emotion. And chaya is the level of your soul that is nullified to God. So since Bria is the world of intellect, only the part of the tzaddik soul which powers its intellectual faculties can ascend there, because the neshama portion of the soul's powers an expanded consciousness of the blessed infinite light. But the emotional powers in the soul of the tzaddik, the ruach, right? Now it's interesting. We have, people throw around the different names to the soul. One of them is ruach, but now you understand, ruach is feeling. And so to all the other souls of Israel which worship God through natural emotion from a reverence and love which is naturally dormant within the heart of Israel, these souls do not ascend there to the intellectual world of Bria. As we conclude this discussion of the unique qualities of the souls of tzaddikim, we cannot help but wonder how this topic is relevant to us, the readers of the Tanya, who in all likelihood will never reach the level of tzaddik. However, there are two highly relevant lessons each of us can take from this discussion. One, if contemplative work renders tzaddikim, righteous ones, superior to angels, it must be extremely powerful. So even if I won't reach the level of a tzaddik, I should still apply myself to this type of work. And number two, even if I fail at contemplative work, and I rely on my natural, innate love for God, I shouldn't feel my worship lacks potency. After all, the angels rely on their innate emotions, and their love is certainly not lacking intensity. So number one is whenever you do create emotional feelings of God based on your intellect, you are reaching very high. And even if you don't reach very high, being like an angel is not a bad place to be. Let's put it that way. So that's the lesson he wants you to walk away with today, because again, it was kind of a higher layer of things that we're not discussing. Now he just mentions here in the next section. Let me see if I want to do this. How long is it? The next section, he basically mentions that Shabbat and Yom Tov, we do have the ability to enter. We do have the ability to enter into higher levels, but we don't have time for it, unfortunately. So we get to next week. But that's also another important thing to note, is that on Shabbat, your soul has the ability to reach higher levels than it normally would. So, in summation, what we want to take for today is number one, again, the big lesson I take is if you see fluctuation in your divine service of God, that's because God has given you the ability to create feelings towards Him, which are far superior than angels. And number two, even when we rely on our innate feelings towards God, don't feel too terrible. The angels do it too. And the angels are nothing to sneeze at, as they say. So I'm wishing you all to walk away from here today is obviously we're starting to see the importance of working on our feelings towards God and not just relying on what's natural. And there are so many reasons why, and this is reason number 2000. No, I'm kidding. But another reason why is very simply as we're seeing, the more you work on your love for God, that you'll have a greater connection. Your connection to God will be of a higher caliber, will reach to a higher place. But we will continue developing that when we gather again next week. And as well, I hope to see you tomorrow night for the JLI, the final class on the Kabbalah of meaning. We'll see you all.
That's
And
that's a koach, Rabbi.
yes, thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you.